All you need is love? Nope. All you need are these conspiracy theories about the Fab Four, the Beatles. Let's talk about them.
Great Hispanic Shane Dawson here is going to trash one of the biggest bands in the world. Carry on.
The Illuminati created the Beatles to control the youth and reshape their personalities using soft drugs. This is also known as the Aquarian Conspiracy.
Side note here, how come nobody ever says that the Beatles were created by Scientology? I mean, L. Ron Hubbard was literally on the Sgt. Pepper album. I mean, that would be a more interesting theory than the Illuminati, because, Scientology, it's a secret organization that's still running, and if you tell about them, they'll sue you. I mean, a hell of a more better theory than the Illuminati, whoever the hell that is.
This conspiracy theory was the brainchild of a former MI6 officer, John Coleman, back in the 1990s. In this theory, the Beatles were jettisoned to stardom with the help of a British organization that studies group behavior called the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations. Many theorists believe that this group had an ulterior motive behind their studies. I don't know, like world domination? But more seriously, engineering the world's culture through pop culture itself. What better way to engineer the world's youth than by using rock music and mind-altering drugs? Sign me up. Don't do drugs, kids. For starters, the compilation entitled Past Masters is a Masonic term used to describe the former worshipful master of a Masonic lodge.
People have got to stop inflating skulls and bones with Illuminati and Freemasonry. They're three different things, and to be a Freemason, you must believe in God. And of course, John Lennon, he was a devout atheist, so he couldn't get in. And the other three had too much to do with their lives. Hell, George, he believed in Hinduism, and he believed in Hare Krishna, so he wasn't really a devoutly religious and believed in God to even get in. So yeah, no. And this is coming from a guy whose grandfather was a Freemason, 33 degree. Don't want to talk about it. But yeah, Freemasonry was one of the only clubs that allowed all races to get into the club, being very diverse. So God bless Freemasonry.
And what about this album cover? The Beatles, Yesterday and Today. Dismembered babies? Check. Raw meat? Check. Satanic rituals and occult themes? Absolutely.
That picture was a protest against the Vietnam War, where we had actual women holding actual dead babies when we dropped the bomb.
And take a look at this promotional picture from Yellow Submarine. John Lennon flashes the devil's horns. Yep, Illuminati. And there's Paul over here making the Eyes of Horus sign, which is also interpreted as 666.
I'm shocked that that young man didn't call that the Nazi okay sign.
Paul is dead. Now this is so widely recognized as a conspiracy that it goes into urban legend status. This legend states that Paul died in late 1966 or early 1967, and he was secretly replaced by a lookalike. As far back as 1969, people have been claiming that there are clues surrounding Paul McCartney's death littered within the Beatles' album covers and lyrics. Now, speculation truly began after a rumor that Paul McCartney, after having a heated argument with his fellow bandmates during a recording session, drove off angrily and died in an accident in London on the M1 motorway on January 7th, 1967.
The Beatles and their music, they love referencing this theory, like Come Together says that 1 + 1 + 1 makes 3, feeding into the whole idea that Paul is dead. But really, if Paul really kicked the bucket, his replacement made way better music as Paul than he ever did. I mean, Pepper, White, Rhodes album, these were all classics after Paul died. And I'm sad that he had to die on my birthday instead of November 1966, as the original tale goes.
Even worse, it said that he was immediately decapitated from the accident. After his passing, it said that the Beatles held a look-alike contest so that they could replace Paul. And he was eventually replaced by an orphan by the name of William Campbell. William was then trained to mimic Paul in every single way.
Sure, Paul McCartney's wife would notice striking differences between their height, weight, probably birthmarks, etc., that is on the body of Paul replacement. And even the way they play is similar. Their vocals, I mean, come on, you can imitate somebody, but you can't exactly get their vocals right.
With some people saying that he was replaced by Britain's MI5 out of concerns that Beatles fans would riot or have severe negative symptoms or reactions after his death.
They didn't think about the negative attributes of them breaking up or them not touring. I mean, didn't those have consequences?
September 17th, 1969, an editor for the student newspaper at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, wrote an article called "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Actually Dead?" In this article, he called out some clues that he felt backed up this rumor. Here, from the Beatles' 1968 White Album, when the song Revolution 9 is played backwards, more specifically the word number 9 itself, you can hear it saying, "Turn me on, dead man." Take a listen.
9? Turn me on, Batman. Turn me on, Batman.
Really creepy, right? And that's not the only clue from the White Album. At the end of the song, "I'm So Tired," if played backwards, Paul can be heard saying, "Paul is a dead man. Miss him, miss him, miss him."
Wait, why would Paul be saying Paul is a dead man? I thought his replacement, it would be more sense if the replacement is saying Paul is a dead man. And Paul didn't even sing "I'm So Tired." John Lennon sung that song, so wouldn't it make more sense if John Lennon said Paul is a dead man or Paul's supposed replacement? Whatever.
Let's listen here.
A few years back, there was this song called Remy Boys or some type of number by Freddie Wap. And in the beginning of the song, Nicki Minaj's mother said that Freddie Wap said, "I'm a devil worshiper," when he just deep pitched a phrase that said Remy Boy lifestyle. And people actually believed it. And the reason why they did is because of this disorder called pareidolia, where people see random faces and rocks and people hear hidden messages. That's because when you hear something or when you see something, your brain is trying to function it to something human or something recognizable in this crazy messed up world. It's a very interesting thing in mental health and mental screenings. And it's like you see like blobs and stuff. They show you blobs and ink images and you have to figure out what it is. That's what it is. So that was the thing with pareidolia, and that's what happened to a lot of people who heard the mumbles of John Lennon. They kind of thought it as, he was actually saying something when he wasn't.
Yep. In the months after, the Beatles press officer, Derek Taylor, responded to these rumors stating the following. "Recently, we've been getting a flood of inquiries asking about reports that Paul is dead. We've been getting questions like that for years, of course. But in the last few weeks, we've been getting them at the office and at home, night and day. I'm even getting telephone calls from disc jockeys and others in the United States." In another clue, many state that they can hear John Lennon saying, "I buried Paul," in the last section of the song Strawberry Fields Forever.
I knew John would pop up in this conspiracy theory somehow. Finally, he actually said cranberry sauce, the going with the whole idea of strawberries and shit like that. But yeah, people misheard that and wanted to fit it into their little theory, whatever.
Now, one of the most popular pieces of evidence is, of course, the Abbey Road album cover, which is said to depict a funeral procession. Left to right, we have George Harrison wearing denim, representing the gravedigger, Paul himself out of step with the others, and barefoot, symbolizing the corpse. He's also holding a cigarette in his right hand versus his dominant left hand. Yes, he was left-handed, signifying that this is an imposter.
As a fellow left-hander myself, I have to say I do a number of things with my right hand. I usually click and use the computer with my right hand, and I also text with my right hand. People usually who are left-handed do a number of things with their right hand. And I know us left-handers who are millennials today are luckier than the left-handers of the past because they used to be forced to change their left-handedness many times.
Ringo Starr in all black symbolizing The Undertaker, and John Lennon in all white representing a heavenly figure.
John Lennon was a devout atheist, so I don't think he would be the one who would want to dedicate himself as a heavenly figure, whether or not it plays with the whole Paul is dead or not. Just doesn't make sense.
And the final clue in this album cover, the license plate of the Volkswagen Beetle in the background. The plate number, 28IF, representing that Paul's age would be 28. If he was still alive.
But Paul McCartney was born in 1942, so he was 27 when this album released, not 28. So wouldn't it make more sense in the theory if he was like 27 and it said 27 IF? But whatever, I'm gonna stop it here. Please like, subscribe, share this video, and I'm out, guys.